I am here at the Charing Cross Theatre, and I'm delighted to be talking to the diminutive. Look at this, you are just a little puppet, a gorgeous, talented puppet.
Oh, stop.
Christina Bianco, who I saw your show last night.
Yes.
And I am really pleased to meet you, because apart from being an extraordinarily talented mimic and impersonator, you are also a very, very clever comic.
Oh, thank you.
And what's more, you are good at you.
Oh, well, that's the nicest compliment of all, so thank you.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is that when you walked out, it seemed to me that you were on a playground and we were here along for the...
I think that's a nice way to put it. I mean, I love what I do, and I'm so grateful. Not to, particularly this time of year, everyone talks about what they're so thankful for, and it's really true to be here in a city that I've always loved, London, and to so frequently have been able to return performing because there's an audience that thankfully has said we want to see more of you. It's a gift, so I'm really pleased. I love what I do. I love that I get to do it here in London in front of an audience that's willing, but also this time in a beautiful theatre. It sort of takes everything up a notch.
It's beautiful.
I typically have played a lot of nightclubs with my solo shows here in the UK, and then recently I've done more theatres with big concerts, but this in London, to be in the Charing Cross Theatre, right in the thick of it on the Strand, it's great. And I love my band, and so I'm sure that does come across, but I'm happy to hear that it comes across in such a way that you thought you were along for the ride. That's nice.
It does. There's a big difference for theatre performers. There's a lot of theatre performers that would love to do concert work and all of that. They get up and sing, but to actually command an audience, your audience, for an entire show is a very different thing.
Thank you. It's one of those things I still don't quite know how it happened. It's the only way I can put it, because I don't know. But I remember my very first cabaret experience as an audience member. I was quite young, and I grew up, just outside of New York City, so I always went to see lots of theater and cabaret. And it was this teeny tiny room, probably no bigger than this stage. And I just watched this person sit up there and somehow make the room seem, they were talking to us in a very intimate way, but they still were able to command it as if it was a much larger theater. And then I remember seeing a few other artists on large stages find a way to make it very intimate, as if the person in the very, very farthest back seat was still as important as the person sitting up there in the front. And it always struck me of how important that was, but also how fun it could be for a performer to have that interaction and that familiarity and comfortability with an audience. It doesn't happen overnight. I had some pretty rocky first performances long before impressions or viral videos. I did like a show for family and friends at a little cabaret bar in New York at the Beechman Theater, the Laurie Beechman Theater, and I remember just sticking to a script in my mind so strictly that as soon as I went off of it, it's like I lost the ability to speak. I was like, I couldn't do it. And so now one of my big things is to have a script and sort of know where I'm going to go. But if it looks too rehearsed and too slick and too polished, when you're hosting a concert, because it's different than a scripted play or piece of theater, I think it's important to have that flexibility and to also go with the flow. And if things have changed, they change.
You're lucky you've got a band that that are able to do that too. One of the things that you did in the show was you had, I hope I'm not giving too much away, but the Christmas crackers.
Yeah, it's all right. He can say it.
The Christmas crackers. And the idea is that there's songs and performers.
Right.
And depending on who calls out what, you could
I have to do what's in the crackers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and they're up for
36
this.
possible combinations, and we swear it's no fun if we cheat and go over them. And by the way, during the rehearsal process, trust me, there was no time to go over 36 possible combinations. I assure you.
Together we can take it to the end of the line. Love is like a shadow of the world. I don't know what to do. I'm always in the dark. I'm living in a power kick, and I'm giving all sparks. Hurry that, Peters!
Are you an impersonator or a mimic? Or a comedian?
Oh, I see, that's the thing. I would never have called myself a comedian because, to me, there were so many incredible people really stand-up comics or comedy writers who
It's a
have
real
done
thing
it,
now, isn't
who
it?
have done it their whole life, and that's what they do. And I have to have a map, and I have to have a framework. I'm going to do Divas. I'm going to stand on the stage, and this audience knows what they're getting themselves into when they come to see me.
Yes.
I would be horrified to go and just do plain stand-up in a little tiny comedy club.
It is so
Well,
funny, you know. It is full of comedy. I mean, it's clever. And even though it is written in.
Thank you. I mean, but I think you have to walk the line. For me, if the audience thinks I'm part stand-up comedian, that's fantastic, because to them I am. I may not label myself because I know in a business sense I wouldn't, apply for that job, so to speak. But I always say my show is part comedy, part music, part game, part sketch, because it's all in there. And I think another important thing to say is that I am heavily influenced by performers that don't just sort of stand on the stage and give a concert. The ones that sort of put on a bigger show. Bette Midler is a huge influence on me, and everybody always says, oh, Bette Midler is such a great comedian. She's never been a comic. She's a comedic actress. She's a comedic performer. And then, but if you just bill yourself as just that, then it sort of takes away, I think, from the fullness of a show, where you could also then do a nice emotional ballad, and for me, not only just do it, but do it in my own voice.
Yes.
So I try to walk the line a little bit between all those things.
Do you write your own material?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen your videos.
Which is scary.
I suppose it depends on what piques your interest, or whether an idea just pops out of the blue, or whether you try something and then it develops. Or
exactly right. It's funny, the YouTube videos that went viral,
oh my lord,
are not ever the ones that I thought would have, because, and I think it taught me something about it, because they are the least polished. They are ones, for example, the Total Eclipse of the Heart video that went viral. That really was me. I was invited by a couple of friends running the little open mic at a place called 54 Below in New York. And it's sort of an invited open mic.
I've seen it. It's a great video.
And so they said, well, want to try something? And I told the accompanist, I'm going to do Total Eclipse of the Heart. And I gave the woman running it, I gave her a list of names. And I said, okay, obviously I can't do, Cher at the highest part of the song or Julie Andrews at the lowest. So for the verses, here are your options. And for the chorus, here are your options. And she just called them out.
Now and then I get a little bit nervous that the best of all these have gone flying around. Now and then I get a little bit terrified, then I see the look in your eyes. Now and then I found a lot around, now and then share.
Off the cuff, meant to be off the cuff, a little bit much like the Crackers, a little bit of variety. Had you told, and it's shot, the camera's shaking, my hair's in my face, there are noisy drunk people around. That's the video that everybody saw that led me to these places. You'd never know. But it also taught me that people don't, I won't say don't like things that are slick, that they might, but I think in the social media age and era, everybody likes to feel included, and the fact that it wasn't so sleek and so polished, I think made viewers feel like they were there and a part of it. The spontaneity of it was something that appealed to them. And so I do now, coming from a very theater world where I've memorized my lines, I know where I'm going to stand, and it hits the mark of the lighting. I have to put a little bit of that aside when I do these live shows, because that's what the audience likes.
Which leads me to my next question. Do you have a preference to being you, doing your thing, which is just fantastic, and the audience last night were absolutely enjoying themselves.
Yeah,
it was so nice.
Grateful.
I always love laughing in the theatre because the world is a bit of a serious place, and sometimes it's just nice for someone like yourself to make you laugh, but to have an entire audience, and that's why it felt like a bit of a playground. It's like you were taking us on this journey.
Well, again, it doesn't always have to be that way, so I am very grateful. I'm very grateful.
They're loving you here in London.
So far so good.
Do you like being in a structured show, like a written book show?
No.
Or do you like the fact that you can do both?
I love both equally, is the honest answer. I was, singing in my own voice, and I still do sing and work in my own voice and my own right as myself.
And it is an amazing voice.
Thank you.
Honest to God, you are a cracking singer.
Thank you.
I mean, you've got to be to do all those voices. But
Thank
anyway.
you. But my favorite thing to do is sing. And like I said, I've been lucky that I've had a career as me. But the fact that the impression thing has happened. It opened so many doors and led me so many places.
Welcome, Christina Bianco. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. And so you almost...
Yeah, I mean, my heart has always been in theater. That's what gave me my start, so to speak. And I love playing roles and totally getting immersed in one, and the costumes and the wigs and grounding yourself and being one person. That's fantastic. I love that. And I really can't compare it to this, because here also that fourth wall is broken.
Yeah.
So it's a different theatrical experience, but in no way better or worse.
Yeah. And this venue, I mean, I'm not surprised, but I was reminded last night of how perfect for this sort of thing it is, because it's so theatrical, and yet it's intimate, and
it's the perfect theater, the perfect size. I was so blessed, and I, hashtag blessed. I was so grateful when they asked me, because I'd seen productions here and thought it was such a beautiful space, and even just the people that are there and the balcony
just on the balcony.
Oh, it's so great, and they're so close, and it really, again, it does make a space that goes quite far back seem more intimate. And so for what I'm doing, it's kind of perfect, because what I do walks the line between being very theatrical and very, sort of like we're all having the party together.
Yeah. What's your who's your favorite diva? You do so many of them.
So that sort of changes all the time, but my usual answer is Celine Dion.
Really?
Yeah, well,
you do have very well.
Celine Dion! I need you now, tonight. I need you
divas that mean a lot to me, just because, and they're typically celebrities that I have listened to and grown up with from a very young age. So Judy Garland is one of them, part of the 411. We say the 4'11" club of petite women with big voices. Judy Garland was just a big part of my life at the Wizard of Oz and just everything there. Bernadette Peters, the Broadway
Oh my God,
performer.
she was funny when you did her last night. Oh God, it made me laugh.
Oh, she was always my
Because
favorite. I wanted
she's
to
so
be her so badly.
idiosyncratic.
She has such a unique voice, unique phrasing, and her face, that little Betty Boop. I mean, I wish I had all of the endowments that Bernadette Peters had. I don't, but I do my best to put it forth.
No, but it's fascinating. you did it with the downturned mouth with Celine too.
Yes.
If you
it's a
suggest
longer
those
chin.
things, it's almost like the audience members go the next step and give you.
Exactly. A lot of you were saying you're an impersonator, you're a mimic, and a lot of people who are impressionists or impersonators, I would say, impersonators typically get into the garb and the look, and they have to look like the person. They can't just sound like them. So I never use the word impersonator. Impressionist is somebody that changes their voice. Yeah, and mimic. Yeah, I mean, I do mimic them, and I try my best to embody them. I think if you just do the voice, that's fine, that's part of it, but they're not just listening to me, are they? They're watching me. So even though I'm not tall like Celine Dion, I do my best to elongate myself and use her gestures and make my face like hers.
And you did the fingers.
That comes from way too many years of watching and listening to
What's
Celine
funny?
Dion.
What's funny
Absolutely
is when someone like you does that sort of thing, you go, yeah, that's what you.
yeah. I mean, sometimes I can do better than others.
Right.
It's the limitations that I have with my 4'11".
I don't mean to gush, but it was just so much fun last night, and it was so funny. You spoke as Celine Dion, sort of before you sang, which was surprising to me, and you did a lot of talking through the show.
Yeah, in my own voice and
that
speaking impressions.
Different thing?
It's not different. I just find that
you obviously have a good ear.
The videos again that went viral. People's first introduction to me doing impressions, they happened to be singing. That's what happened. I've always done speaking impressions as well.
Okay.
But when I was cast in Forbidden Broadway, one of the reasons they cast me was because I could impersonate, and I was barely sure I could at the time that I was cast, but they told me I was. I could impersonate Bernadette Peters and Kristen Chenoweth singing and speaking. They had said, well, you could also do the speaking, which is really good, and so I went, yeah, that's important.
I was going to say yes,
that's
because
important.
you have to speak in that.
You do. I mean, because you're doing not just one number, it's an entire sketch. You need to speak as the person. Then I did a sketch show in New York called Musical, which is very much like the television program Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
It spoofs the news and pop culture set to music. And I had to impersonate everybody. Barbara Walters, Kim Kardashian, Lady Gaga singing and speaking.
Oh,
so I thought, well, there's a lot a lot of fun to be had with that too.
Yeah.
So I put some videos out on YouTube with me doing speaking impressions, and I do it. It's out there. And if you see my live shows, I usually throw it in. I usually throw it in the Barbra Streisand book.
Right.
But this time I got to have a little extra fun with it.
You
so.
did,
Yeah.
and you even did some locals. I'll leave that up to you.
I
Go
did.
and book tickets, whatever you do. Do yourself a favour. Get down here. You're here until just after New Year.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
final performance. I have two shows actually on January 7th. So
Yeah.
we have how many shows left now? 13 shows
13
left.
shows.
So come on down.
Look, it's been an absolute delight. I can't tell you
Thank
how nice,
you.
and I'm sure the people watching will be very pleased to meet you on the video. And if they haven't seen you, they'll click on YouTube or come and see the show.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
really
for
am
speaking
so
with
glad
us.
you enjoyed it. Thank you.